Allow me to paint a picture for you. It's 1900. Your home and place of work are located within a few streets of each other, and so are all of your necessities, such as the grocery store and local newspaper shop. You head there and see a headline printed on every newspaper. The metro is now open. The future of transportation is here. Suddenly, a world of opportunities opens up to you. You can reach the other side of town in only 30 minutes, even during rush hour. That's a drastic improvement compared to the hour or more it usually takes with your automobile. And you can now reach areas that you couldn't dream of getting to with the lacking bus system. This is truly a game changer. You can now live further from work in a part of town that's more pleasant and cheaper. You can explore the city much more easily, and you could even maybe start a business delivering things across town using the metro, since it's faster than cars in a lot of situations. This kind of scenario is fairly common in cities with big transportation systems such as metros, airports, or even highway networks. The increased connectivity usually leads to better opportunities for citizens, and ultimately to a positive outcome for the parties involved. The reason I painted this picture is because this kind of improvement is potentially about to happen again with the Hyperloop system, maybe the biggest advancement to mass transportation that we will witness in the 21st century. Hi, my name is Gray from Twill. We post videos every week about topics that we find super interesting. Hopefully, you will find them interesting too. In today's video, we will go over the history of the Hyperloop all the way to today, and we will explore how this technology is lining up to disrupt the world as we know it. First things first, let's clarify what the Hyperloop is. Simply put, the Hyperloop consists of a track and a pod. The track is a low-pressure, ideally vacuum-sealed tube. The tube contains a magnetic track for the pods to travel on. The pod uses magnets to push itself away from the track and levitate. The reduced friction from the levitation and vacuum sealing allows the pods to travel at speeds around 1,220 kilometers per hour, or about 760 miles per hour for our American viewers. To put it in perspective, most commercial airplanes fly at a speed of 740 to 930 kilometers per hour. Apart from its incredible speed, the Hyperloop technology has the potential to be fully autonomous and to function fully from sustainable energy sources. The Hyperloop could potentially move people or objects at airline speeds while being more energy efficient than existing high-speed rail systems. If implemented, this could reduce travel times compared to train and airplane travel over distances of under 1,500 kilometers or 930 miles. In 2013, Elon Musk, the founder of disruptive companies Tesla and SpaceX, released a 55-page document titled Hyperloop Alpha. The document responds to California's proposal to extend its own train network. In it, Musk states, "The underlying motive for a statewide mass transit system is a good one. It would be great to have an alternative to flying or driving, but obviously, only if it is actually better than flying or driving. The train in question would be both slower, more expensive to operate if unsubsidized, and less safe by 2 orders of magnitude than flying. So why would anyone use it? If we are to make a massive investment in a new transportation system, then the return should by rights be equally massive. Compared to the alternatives, it should ideally be safer, faster, lower cost, more convenient, immune to weather, sustainably self-powering, resistant to earthquakes, and not disruptive to those along the route." Along with this bold statement, the Hyperloop Alpha goes over numerous details regarding the feasibility of this concept and covers various details relating to the technical, economical, and societal aspects of it. Unfortunately, the document gets quite technical quite fast, but I encourage all of you to go check it out if you want to understand Elon's original vision of the Hyperloop. The Alpha even includes a bunch of super interesting concept renders and drawings, and numerous details on a route proposal between San Francisco and Los Angeles, which could potentially extend further all the way to Las Vegas and San Diego. For those of you who want to check it out, the link is in the description below. After releasing Hyperloop Alpha, Elon made it clear that he did not intend to pursue this project on his own, but rather to leave it as an open-source project to be taken over by other innovative groups around the world. In 2015, his company SpaceX sponsored a pod competition aiming at promoting the technology and developing the first working prototypes. The contestants had to design and build a subscale prototype which needed to work on the contest's track. The track was a 1.6-kilometer or 1-mile test track located in Hawthorne, California, near SpaceX's headquarters. Believe it or not, the first stages of the competition counted over 1,000 applicants. Only 27 teams were selected to compete out of all of them. Most competitors were representing universities. For instance, the first competition was won by the University of Delft, with top honors going to the Technical University of Munich. There have been competitions yearly since then, with around the same amount of selected teams each year. In parallel, various private and public entities have jumped on the train and decided to work on developing this technology. Some notable companies stand out in this field, such as US-based Hyperloop TT, privately owned Canadian corporation Transpod, Dutch company Hart Hyperloop, and likely the most famous of all, Virgin Hyperloop. All of the companies I just listed have been working on this technology for years already, but none of them has a functioning product on the market yet. Most of them have functioning prototypes and are trying to acquire land in order to further test their technology. Simultaneously, a lot of these companies seem to be on a huge promotional campaign for the technology and its uses. For instance, back in October 2020, Virgin Hyperloop had its own CEO ride a pod prototype on a test track and strongly publicized the event in order to show the general public that the Hyperloop is safe and could be enjoyed by regular folks like us. Despite SpaceX being based in California, the technology actually seems to be making the most progress outside the US. In fact, numerous routes across the world are being strongly considered by government agencies, urban design firms, and the involved Hyperloop companies. Canadian company Transpod is currently working with Canadian lawmakers to test and implement a Hyperloop track, which will link the Edmonton Airport to its city centre. This project is meant to be a first commercial step before launching a much more ambitious track, which will link transport cargo and humans between the cities of Edmonton and Calgary at speeds of up to 1,000 kilometers per hour. That is, if this first project works and makes sense financially, obviously. On the other side of the country, Transpod is also working on another Hyperloop track meant to connect Toronto and Montreal. The line, if successful, would shorten the travel distance between the two major cities from over 6.5 hours by car to 39 minutes using the Hyperloop. Transpod is also supposedly working on a project across the pond with their French counterparts. The details of this project are yet to be shared publicly. Simultaneously, the Dutch company, Hart Hyperloop, is working on a pod of its own. Not only that, but the company is also trying to understand what Hyperloop stations and networks might be like in the near future. The team at Hart, along with the industry leaders and government agencies, are also involved in the European Hyperloop Center. As Hart puts it, the facility, which includes a large R&D workshop, presentation facilities, and an experience center, is equipped with a 3-kilometer track that will allow for the high-speed testing of vehicles from collaborating Hyperloop companies and will provide the basis for the standardization in European Hyperloop infrastructure and technology. The European Hyperloop Center is currently in the works and is set to be operational by 2022. Not far south from there, Hyperloop Italia is working with the local government and Zaha Hadid Architects to evaluate the possibility of building a Hyperloop line connecting the city center and the Milan Malpensa Airport. The international airport is located 45 kilometers, or roughly 28 miles, outside of the city and takes around 45 minutes or over an hour to get to, depending on traffic conditions and transportation method. The proposed project would reduce this time to 10 minutes or potentially even less. This is where things get even more interesting. Many companies are working on big Hyperloop projects and already have clear routes to work on. They all seem to be racing to become the first to bring a Hyperloop route to the market. But when you take a step back and look at the big picture, The goal, ideally, isn't just to build a single track or to have a few closed tracks. Rather, the great advantage to the Hyperloop and the way it will disrupt the world is through its network. HART already has a clear vision for a future in which Europe has its own Hyperloop network, which connects all the main cities in Europe, similar to an airport network or train network. The difference between a train network and the European Hyperloop network is interoperability. Simply put, if every country and company builds its own Hyperloop network without thinking of the others, things will get very complicated very quickly. Passengers would have to go through different networks and to change stations to go to different locations, almost like a more complicated version of airplane layovers. In order to prevent this future, companies like HART are hard at work on developing a common network that all the countries will be able to use to transport goods and people across Europe. This is in part why they are currently working so hard on developing the European Hyperloop Center and trying to collaborate with government agencies across the continent. Needless to say, being the company in charge of designing and building this whole network would represent substantial financial upside for HART and is surely one of their goals. In the long term, this network could potentially replace short-haul flights and disrupt the European travel industry, especially low-cost, short-haul airlines such as EasyJet and Ryanair, or long-distance bus companies such as Flixbus or WeBus. Not only that, but this kind of network could potentially disrupt many more industries indirectly by changing the European economy's dynamics. For example, this network implies that a person will easily be able to live in Lisbon and work in Amsterdam, doing the back and forth every day of the week for work. Currently, this is not feasible with airplanes, as airlines have at most a few flights per day for each destination. Flights also involve time-consuming check-in and security processes, along with a lot of potential delays and waiting times, making it much less convenient for this kind of dynamic to exist in Europe today. Another example of the disruption this technology and network will bring is cargo. An autonomous, high-speed transport network across Europe will allow businesses to ship products across the continent within less than a day, without transits at cargo hubs. This will allow for farmers to ship out fresh produce directly, and for online retailers to offer next-day or even same-day delivery across the continent, in a similar way to what Amazon Prime offers in North America. Being fully autonomous would allow for 24/7 shipments without having to worry about paying drivers or about them driving safely. This would also drastically reduce the need to stock inventory, and thus the need for warehousing and fulfillment businesses. There are currently no definitive routes or cities selected for the European Hyperloop network. Although the videos on HART's YouTube channel are quite suggestive, which cities do you think should be included in the network? And what do you think will be the biggest disruption that it brings to the world? Please take a minute to scroll to the comments to let us know. We find this topic fascinating, and we'd love to know your thoughts on it. And when you're done with that, take a second to like this video. It really helps us and YouTube know if we're doing a good job with these videos. Anyways guys, it was a pleasure making this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it, and that you learned something new today. See you in the next one.